I've been on a few group rides recently and have answered questions more than once. So much that I felt the need to do a video to help more know how to ride with a group properly. Now, this is properly according to what we used to do in our club. Different clubs may do things differently, but this is going to be a good foundation for you. And another thing, I am not a lawyer. I don't know what state or city you are in. I am just sharing with you my experience and knowledge as someone who's been riding most of his life, both in clubs and as an independent. So use your own common sense and make sure you're being safe. Never ride beyond your skill or comfort level. You are in control of your own life. You know what you can and can't do, should and should not do. But if I can help share my experience to make you and the bikers around you safer, then let's do it. If you don't know, you don't know. So let's get you in the know on today's Graybeard Biker. Okay, before we jump in, why is this important? Well, for a couple of reasons. One is safety, and that's a real thing, no doubt. But bigger than that in some cases, I think, is respect. Doing this correctly shows maturity and respect for your other riders. In a club, respect is everything. With most men, independent or club, respect is everything. Now, some folks can't be helped, and I'm sure that I'll hear from them in the comments saying, riding is about freedom, and I'll ride how I want to ride, and I don't care what others think, and blah, blah, blah. I know, I get it, and I'll defend your right to think like that. But for the rest of us, know what you need to know to show respect to your fellow riders. I've been on quite a few group rides recently with people that I hadn't ridden a lot with, some absolute strangers. And I could tell who had been in a club and who hadn't because of how well they rode together as a group. Being able to ride well in a group not only shows respect, it shows skill, and it's something to be proud of. Now, to repeat myself for the keyboard gangsters, you, of course, are free to do whatever you like. You can be a dick or a free spirit, it's America. But since World War I, motorcycling has been set up as a paramilitary structure and activity. The sense of brotherhood that came from the veterans of the Great War was continued on through the early motorcycle clubs in America. So, out of respect for the tradition and for the others that ride with you, here's what you should know, even if you decide to ignore it. But if you ignore it, others might not want to ride with you. I know of several people that choose to never ride in groups because it's not easy to do correctly, or because others often don't know how to do it, and it can create danger for them. Now, let's get started with a scenario. You have a group ride that you are going to. Number one, arrive prepared. Arrive 30 minutes prior to kickstands up with a full tank of gas. But it's more than just that. If you are riding with others, you are expected to know certain things. If you don't, you are likely a newbie, at least to group riding, and you need to be taught. Today, we're teaching. Preparation number one, know the hand signals. All group riders should know and understand hand signals. If the leader gives a signal, riders following should repeat the signal for the riders further back in the group. If you need to communicate something to the group, give the appropriate hand signal, and the rider that's in the tail position will pass it back up to the lead rider. Nowadays, they use comms, but I've seen them sprint up to the front to communicate to the leader for the group back before everyone could get comms. Let's discuss what the hand signals are. If you have a passenger, they will do an exaggerated version of these behind the rider. So, left turn. And if you have a passenger, it's going to look like this. This grabs a lot of attention, and that attention keeps motorcycles safe. Something else we do to get more attention is to move your arm quickly. The speed gets attention as well. It also helps if you do it with purpose. Right turn. And with a passenger, it's the opposite of the left signal. Speed up. Slow down. To let someone know we're coming to a stop. To let those behind you know that there is a hazard in the road on the left, you normally point to it. And if there's a hazard on the right, you can either point to it with your finger or you can point to it with your foot so that your hand doesn't leave the throttle. Letting people know there are cops ahead. Letting someone know that their turn signals are on. Motorcycles are notorious for getting their turn signals stuck on. Telling someone to pass you. Telling someone don't pass. Get into single file formation. Getting into club formation. This could be motorman or king formation depending on the club. We'll talk more on that shortly. And then there's get into staggered formation. Again, we'll discuss formations more in a bit. Now, it's important. If you are a passenger, don't do any of these unless first instructed to or demonstrated by your rider. Now, this next group of signals, the passengers generally won't do because they aren't piloting the bike. Telling riders to round up or start your engines. The response to that is biker ready. Letting someone know you need gas. Generally, it's done simply by gesturing to your gas tank. Saying that you need to stop for the bathroom or a rest stop. I think the PC thing now is comfort stop. That's generally done by making a T with your thumb and your index finger and then moving your wrist like you are flushing a handle. An alternative for that is to take your fist and move it in an up and down motion. Then there's the request to stop for food that looks like this. And an alternative for it looks like a drink that's this. Telling someone to pass you. Now, when telling someone to lead, it's very similar. It has you pointing your finger and then telling them to pass. The opposite of that, telling people to follow me, indicating to pull off or take an exit, telling people to turn it off. Generally, this means either the engine or the radio in some cases. Then there is the biker salute, which is generally done only to clubs. Independents and individuals usually just give each other the standard greeting of telling them to keep two wheels on the ground, which is responded in the same way. If you're unable to do that, a lot of people, if their hands are on their handlebars, clutch in, throttle, whatever, they'll simply nod. Then there are signals that are for the road guards or blockers only. These are not passed back to the group. There's left lane block, right lane block, oncoming block. Now, while blocking, you need to know stop, wait. This is something that you tell cars. And then after the group is ready, you tell them thank you, usually by giving them the thumbs up and mouthing the words thank you to them. Then there are a few things that you should know because they are started by you. One is I'm dropping out and I'm okay. That's giving the thumbs up as you're leaving. And the I'm dropping out and I'm not okay, something is wrong or something is broken, is generally a thumbs down as you're pulling out. Now, this is quite the vocabulary of hand signals, isn't it? And there are some that are called home signals, ones that are specifically used by a certain club or a certain group leader. The ones that we discuss, every motorcyclist should know. The ones that your ride's leader uses should be known by those to whom he is leading. If they are different from these, he will tell you. The next group of things that you are expected to know are group riding formations. There are 4 main formations: club formation, standard, single file, and king formation. The formation used is going to depend on the riding conditions at the time and can be changed back and forth during the same ride. The leader is responsible for determining the formation of the group at all times. In any formation, lane positions are going to be important. The road is generally, a common road would be 2 lanes. Well, that one road lane that you're driving down, for motorcycles, it's split into 3 tracks. 1 is where the car's left tires go, 3 is where the car's right tires go, and 2 would be in the middle. Now, for motorcycles, when you are in a group and you ride together, you are either in track 1 or track 3. If you are in the middle, track 2, or in the wrong lane, you're obstructing the rider behind you. Try and maintain your position in track 1 or 3 whenever possible. If you need to move out of your position, move back as soon as you can. You will only use track 2 in single file formation. So let's dive in. Staggered formation, indicated by this. This is the most common formation public groups will ride in. In this formation, you will either ride in track 1 or track 3. Now, don't attempt to pass another rider in formation unless they have signaled you to pass. And in that case, never cross from track 3 to track 1 or track 1 to track 3. Once you're in a track, you stay there. We'll discuss passing in a bit when we go over special maneuvers. Now, you are expected to ride 2 seconds behind the forward rider that is in your track and 1 second behind the rider that is in the opposite track of you. Now, this is for safety reasons. This gives you 2 seconds to react to the rider in front of you if something goes wrong in your track, which is one of the reasons that it's important that you stay in your track. If you wander into the guy next to you, you wander into his track, it gives him less time to react. And staying this close together is going to deter cars from trying to break up the pack. If you open up a space, some car is going to try to use it, and that will mess everyone up. The next most familiar formation is single file, indicated with the number 1. This is commonly used for twisty or curvy roads where the leader will signal to switch to single file formation so that riders can decide to use the full width of the road lane if necessary for turning maneuvers. Now, don't tailgate the rider in front of you, no matter what formation you're in. And again, do not attempt to pass another rider unless you have been signaled to pass. You never do anything, regardless of formation, unless the rider in front of you tells you or does it first. You don't move until they move. That's a good rule of thumb for you to have. That's 2. Stay in your track is number 1. Number 2, don't do anything unless the rider in front of you either tells you to or does it first. You don't attempt to move until they move. And speaking of twisty and curvy roads, never attempt to pass another rider on a corner or a curve. Club formation, also known as motorman formation. This is used by skilled, experienced riders that are familiar with each other's riding styles and skill. The 2 riders are in track 1 and track 3, and they ride side by side. Then the next pair rides back behind them and on down the line side by side. Riding in this formation takes skill, familiarity, and trust, which is why it's generally not done as much in public, unknown rider groups, like at rallies and whatnot. Now, the tighter the formation, the more skill is being demonstrated by the group as a unit. The HAs ride in the tightest group that I have ever seen myself. It is a sight, and they know it, and they're proud of it. And then finally, a lesser used formation nowadays is the king formation, also known as the V formation. It's like the club formation, only the leader rides in track 2 in front of the first pair. There's also diamond formation, which is king formation, except for the sweeper is in track 2 in the very back. There are many other formations and variations of formations, but these are the 4 most common. The next thing you need to know are riding positions within the group. Now, I'm going to start by telling you club positions based on my experience, but different clubs can assign different positions and use different titles for their positions, etc. For us, the president rides left. That's front, left, and in charge. The VP is to his right, followed by the other officers, secretary, treasurer, etc., depending on what positions the club happens to have. Then there's the road captain. Now, the road captain is the highest ranking junior officer. It is normally first behind the officers, but his position can change depending on the ride and depending on the club. Sometimes he's riding left with the president to his right. Sometimes he's in the tail gunner position. The road captain is generally the one that makes the plans, holds the riders meeting, assigns the blocking positions, and that sort of thing. If he's riding left, usually he is leading from the left. If he is riding behind the officers, like in the progression that I mentioned here, he is going to be in charge of passing signals back if the president doesn't start them himself. And in this case, he starts the junior officers if they exist. After the junior officers will come the patched members based on seniority. Then the prospects based on seniority. After them, you have the hangarounds and the friends of the club. After them, you have trikes, or any three-wheeled vehicle like bikes with sidecars, whatever. Then there's the person that's riding drag. This person is also called the sweeper, tail gunner. Some people may just call them the blocker. They are the person that is in charge of protecting the pack from the rear. Now, we'll talk more on that later when we get to special maneuvers. But after everyone, often at a great distance because they're not really part of the column, is going to be the run truck or support vehicle, if they exist. Sometimes you don't have a run truck or support vehicle, but they run behind everybody else. Now, in clubs, they are generally considered to be part of the pack, as long as they don't interfere with the duties of the tail gunner. Now, in public groups, which is what's going to affect most of you, the positions are generally set up this way. You have the road captain, who is the leader in the first position. That's the one that's riding left, first position left, right? They're the ones that prepare the ride. The road captain will meet with his road guards and the tail gunner, and they'll discuss all of the needs for the rides so that everyone knows how it's going to work and where everyone is going and using what route and that sort of thing. The number 2 position is generally reserved for a VIP personnel, be it a guest or a celebrity or whoever it might be. Then positions 3 and 4 are usually road guards or blockers. I've heard them called left and right flank before, and I've heard them called marshals. For big groups, you can have as many as 8 different road guards, all starting with positions 3 and 4 in the column. After the road guards, you have the rest of the pack, with the least experienced behind the most experienced. And then after them comes trikes, Can-Ams, again, anything that has 3 wheels in back of all of the 2-wheeled motorcycles. And then behind them will be the person that is riding drag, the tail gunner, the person that's responsible for protecting the rear of the column. Then any support vehicle would follow after that, again, usually at a distance. So it's very similar to club positions without some of the individual rank and responsibility. Now, we'll talk more about the individual positions a little later in the video, but right now, let's talk about how the ride operates. Okay, back to the day of the ride in our scenario. You come prepared, and then you have check-in, where you receive your ride sheet if that's provided, and you make sure that you check in with the lead road captain. Not only do you want to receive your ride point and complete any necessary paperwork that may be there depending on the ride, but the lead road captain also needs to get a head count of how many people are going to be on the run so that he can react and plan accordingly. Then approximately 15 minutes before kickstands up, the lead road captain will hold a pre-ride briefing or a rider's meeting. In this meeting, he will provide important information about the ride, such as the routes that he's going to take, the rest stops that you can expect, any special hand signals that he's going to use that you may not be familiar with, and any other ride-related topics. It's important that you listen closely so that you know what his guidelines are and so that you know what to do in case you get separated from the pack somehow. He'll usually introduce himself. He'll introduce the road guards and the sweeper or tail gunner position so that you know who those people are. Often in a public group ride, they'll be wearing special clothing that identifies them. Now, you've had your meeting, you know who everybody is. Let's talk about how the ride operates, including a few special maneuvers that are done. The lead rider, the road captain, the person riding left, will give hand signals for people in the pack. The pack is also called the column or the formation. You've heard me use those terms interchangeably already. It means everyone that's included in the ride. Now, each of the signals that the leader gives is going to have its own meaning. I went over some of those meanings at the top of this video. So let's review some of them again, starting with one of the most important, which is changing of formation. If you see the leader give the signal for a different formation, you repeat the hand signal for the riders behind you. Now, road guard signals, which are only pertinent to them, will stop with the recipient and not be passed back to the rest of the group. Again, the rule is don't do anything unless the person in front of you does it. If you can see up to the front and you see signals being passed back, but they don't get passed back to you, they are not for you. So don't repeat the signal until the person in front of you does the signal to you. Now, in the case of signaling a formation change, after the hand signal has been given, you safely move into the new riding formation. One at a time, as the person in front of you does it, then you do it. You don't jump the gun in front of the person in front of you. That's not safe. You wait till the person in front of you moves, and then you move after that. The person after you will move after that, etc. Now, with staggered formation, again, you're expected to maintain a distance between you and the rider in front, 2 seconds, and the rider staggered ahead of you is 1 second. Riding too close doesn't give you enough time to react to the things that are in front of you, but riding with too much space is going to open up room for other vehicles to get in between everybody, spreading the group out even further. So let's try to stay together and work as a unit. If you are not comfortable with the speed the group is traveling, it is better to drop out of the formation, give the thumbs up as you're leaving the group, and then trail the group at a safe distance. Do not drop back and ride directly behind the tail gunner. That's going to interfere with him doing his job. Ride further back. You can just meet up with the group at the next planned stop. Now, pulling out of formation. When you do that, you need to give the other riders around you a hand signal to let them know if you are having trouble or if you're just leaving the ride for the day or for whatever reason. Thumbs up means that you're okay. Thumbs down means you are having trouble, and then the person that's running drag will pull off with you and give you assistance. They will also communicate with the leader and keep them advised as to what's going on. And if you indicate that you are good, no one will follow you. If you indicate that you are broken, they will. It's always a good idea if you plan to break off to let people know beforehand, but you still need to do the signals. Now, if a rider leaves the group, the rest of the group should reform the formation by whoever is in that track moving up into the vacant position. Again, do not crisscross. If you are in the number 6 position, for example, do not jump into the number 4 position. The person that's in the number 5 advances forward. There's no crossing of the tracks. Doing so is dangerous. Now, coming to a stop. When the group is coming to a stop at a red light or stop sign, regardless of the formation that you're in, you will stop in a side-by-side formation like a club formation. That way you're going to take up less space in the road. Also, when the light turns green, the bike on the left will proceed first through the intersection with the rest of the pack falling into formation behind them. Try to pull out as quickly as you can while still being safe. Being quick will allow more riders to make it through the light while it is green. If you get caught at a yellow or red light, don't run the light. come to a safe stop. The tail gunner will communicate with the lead, and the lead will then slow down the group or stop them, pull over, somehow allow the rest of the group to catch up after you're through the signal. Don't try to speed to catch up with the group. It is the leader's responsibility to slow everyone down until everyone can come back together. All right, honestly, depending on the size of the group, we used to go together as a group come hell or high water. There was no stopping at a signal, and there was no chances of the group getting broken up. Now, I'm not saying do it. I'm saying we did it. It's not legal. We trusted in the spectacle of a group of motorcycles being enough to literally stop traffic. But it's not legal, and it may not be safe to do so. So, do with that what you will. Just telling you what we did. Now, stop signs are a little different. Traffic permitting, we try to stay together and have the full group move and proceed through the intersection at one time. Now, if road guards are available and assisting in blocking traffic, do not stop your motorcycle. They are blocking the traffic for you. They are helping to control the intersection. If they do that, make sure you stay with the bike in front of you, but always watch for other traffic that is on the road. If cross traffic is an issue, come to a stop safely before you proceed through the intersection. Safety is always going to be your first priority. Now, we'll talk more about road guards in a bit later when we get to the blocking maneuvers and what they look like. Now, to reiterate again, because I've seen this, do not pass another rider within the column.
You shall not pass!
The only exception is going to be if someone drops out, and then the group will reform the formation again by moving up within the same track that you're in to the vacant position and not doing the crisscross. Now, if there are hazards in the road, then you need to point them out. You can point them out using your hands, usually on the left side. On the right side, you can use your hand as well. Generally, you're pointing. If your hand is on the throttle, you generally will use your right foot to point to the hazard. If the rider in front of you signals that there is a hazard, be sure to pass the signal back to the riders behind you that may not be able to see it because you are in the way. Now, let's talk about specific positions as they are relative to specific maneuvers. If you are just in the pack, in the group maneuver, you won't be doing most of these maneuvers, but it is important for you to know what's going on and what your part is in it so that you know what's going on, what everybody is doing, and how it works to ensure your safety. Let's start again with the road captain, the leader, the person that's in charge of preparation, of hosting the meeting, of signaling all of the needs to the road guard, and then signaling all of the needs to the pack as they are leading the ride. Riding drag. This person is also called the sweeper, the blocker, the tail gunner, but when changing lanes, the leader will signal. Everyone will pass that signal back to the person that is riding drag. They will then get over first and slow down traffic, making room for everyone to get over. Generally, they only slow them down maybe 5 miles an hour slower, but once the sweeper is over and making room, the leader will get over, and then the other riders will move one at a time. As the person in front of you moves over, you can move over. Do not move out of turn. Again, you only do something if the person in front of you does it. Don't move out of turn because you can create an opportunity to break the pack, and we don't want that. Road guards. These people are generally in positions 3 and 4, sometimes 3, 4, 5, and 6. You could have as many as 8 different road guards, as I say. Generally, they're not in position number 2 if there's a VIP, but they can be if there is not. Now, when approaching what looks to be a dangerous stretch of road or a busy intersection that could possibly break up the group, the leader will signal and the blocker will pull out in front of and block the oncoming traffic so that the group may proceed through the intersection as one unit. However, generally speaking, this technique, while very common, is not actually legal in most states. It is in some. So, know your local laws. But in tradition, this is how it works. If the leader signals a block to the right, he does this signal. And then the road guard on the right will go into position to block traffic. If he's calling a block to the left, he will do this signal. And the road guard on the left will go into position to block traffic. The other common one is to block oncoming traffic, in which case he will do that, and the person in the left or the person behind him, if there's multiple blockers, will block the oncoming traffic so that they don't turn into the column. In any of these cases, once the tail gunner gets through the intersection, he will generally blow his horn twice and let the blockers know to come back into the fold of the column. If you see the blocker trying to get back in formation, let them. Some maneuvers have ways specific to let them in, others don't, and you just let them in when you can. Okay, pause. Look at where they're placed. The number 3 position went to block left and is stopped near the yellow line on the left and also in the center of the cross street, blocking traffic. The right guard is in the center of the 2-lane cross street on the right and out of the way of the pack by moving to the right outside of track 3 in the pack's forward-moving lane. And the number 5 position went to block oncoming traffic by being near the yellow line, just like number 3, but centered to stop the turn lane of the oncoming traffic from turning into the column. Then, as the tail gunner passes, he will beep his horn twice, letting the blocker know that the pack is through, and they will then rejoin the column. Now, other maneuvers that do involve you directly. For single lane passing, you don't go until you think that everyone behind you can also go. The leader will generally signal to the left and then pass the car, followed by doing the pass me signal, as he secures the way in the same manner that the tail gunner would. The riders will then pass both him and the car and form a single formation in track 3. This will then allow the leader to ride in track 1 to regain his position after everyone has passed the car. This is done when you're going around traffic or when you're getting over in a very congested sort of situation where the entire group will not be able to get over and the tail gunner can't even get over. In that case, the leader will take responsibility to do that block. Other than that, the congested merge or leader rolling block is just the same. In this case, the leader will call for staggered formation if the group isn't riding in that formation already, and then he will find a space to get over himself. Then he will block traffic like in the single pass maneuver, with the bikes passing in front of him one at a time, getting into track 3, and accelerating in front of him to make room for the next rider behind them in front of the leader, until the tail gunner passes, at which time he lets the leader know that everyone is over, and the leader will then use track 1 to return to his position. Now, in both these cases, notice that the passing riders do not merge into track 1 beside the leader. That space is left open in case something happens and the rider needs to get over quickly because they've misjudged oncoming traffic, or the car ahead of them suddenly stops in the lane that they're leaving, or something like that. It is a safety space that is left open in case someone needs it. Then there's also the rolling block. The leader will call for a road guard to block traffic. When he does, the leader will get over first. So if he's calling for a blocker, the leader gets over first, and then everyone else comes in line one at a time in single file after him until we get to the tail gunner position, in which case the road guard will ride up the other track to get back into position. That's very similar to the leader rolling block maneuver. Now, if one member of the group is pulled over by a police officer, the entire group should stop. However, other riders should stay on or by their motorcycles unless they're being confronted by the officer. This is definitely club stuff. I don't know that I would do this if I was on a public ride, but it's definitely something that we did in a club. Lastly, parking. Park in an orderly fashion so that when you leave, everyone goes back into formation. Normally, you will back into parking spaces one at a time like this. Once the area is full, the next group will have to find another place to park that is not in front of the first group. And then they will continue parking again one at a time. If there is a third group, they will find another place to park, again, not in front of the second group or in front of the first group. This is because when departure happens, the first group will leave in order first, and then it'll be followed by the other groups as well, and the formation will reform easily. Dropping off. We've talked about this already. If you are pulling out of formation, make sure that you give the other riders the hand signal if you are having trouble, or if you're just leaving the ride and you're fine. Generally, the tail gunner and sometimes the rest of the pack that's behind you will pull over with you. And then the tail gunner will communicate with the lead to let them know what's going on. This is one of the reasons why there's usually a comm link between the leader and the tail gunner. If there's not a comm link, sometimes he will send one of the other bikes that stopped to go up and to communicate with the leader what is going on. So, these are the basics. Again, clubs make their own rules. Road captains can change the rules, but this is your foundation. It's kind of hard to teach things in order because the maneuvers are going to require that you know the positions, and the positions require that you know the hand signals, and so it gets kind of mixed up as far as the order that you're teaching it. But feel free to go over this video as many times as you need to until you learn the things that we talked about today as your foundation. So review the video, ask questions in the comments. Before you go on a ride, you can send the riders here to check out this video to make sure that they know this before you let them join your ride. Again, everybody being on the same page is very, very important. Clubs, you are welcome to link to this video. Rallies, organizations, same thing. The more people that know, understand, and practice, the better off we're all going to be as a community.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
All right, so like I announced on our Graybeard Biker Live last week, we're going to do the drawing for the giveaway from the 500 subs celebration video that we did. We're drawing two names. We've got the limited edition exclusive Graybeard Biker, not politically correct
Copper
pin.
pin.
Yep. And then we've got the t-shirt that we're giving away. So we're going to see who won. She's going to pick for us. Let's zoom in. All right. Go.
Okay. There we go. Ride with purpose.
Ride with purpose. Ride with purpose. You are a winner. So you are going to win the pin. So, well, we'll talk about how to get in touch with me in a minute. So go ahead and pick the next one.
All right. This one is Roy's Moto Ventures.
Roy's Moto Ventures. You win the t-shirt.
The t-shirt.
So here's what you've got to do to give me your information. If you go to graybeardbiker.com and then go down to the bottom of the first page, there's a form where you can email us. Roy, I need you to tell me your t-shirt size. And both of you, I need you to send me your address. So go ahead, both go to graybeardbiker.com, fill out the form, yeah, congratulations.
Now back to your regularly scheduled program.
So, I hope you got something out of today's video. Hope you learned something that maybe you didn't know. If there's something that I left out, feel free to let me know in the comments. If you liked today's video, hit the like button. If you want more motorcycle content like this, be sure that you're subscribed to catch all of the episodes that we do, including ones like this one. To make sure that you don't miss anything, you can take a step further and click the bell for notifications. Also, consider joining us on Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Graybeard Biker live streams. And until next time, stay free, keep it shiny side up.